Hey guys, Bryan here from Liquid Concepts. So today we're going to talk a little bit about durability of hydrographics. And so we're going to go through a couple of different ways on we can destroy this, as well as how durable is hydrographics. And so we thought we'd shoot a quick little video, show you guys a few things of what it will hold up to and what it will not hold up to, and what you can expect from a hydrographics part itself. So let's get started. So of course, this is going to be simulating rain and of course, something like a pressure washer. Now, I will say this with a pressure washer. If you get a pressure washer too close to this, it's probably going to start chipping and flaking this off. So definitely do not get a pressure washer very close to anything, whether it's painted or hydrographics, because it's probably going to start peeling it off. It is a high pressure PSI. So definitely be cautious on that. But rain. So if this was outside in the rain, is this going to hurt it? As you can tell, definitely not. We'll change this to a jet. And of course, no damage to it whatsoever. Of course, it is wet, but the good thing about this is that it does have that protective clear coat over the top of it, and it is going to be pretty much no damage. So if you're planning on washing or you're wanting to clean the vehicle or anything like that, the water is going to have no damage or no effect to the hydrographics. So let's move on to the next one. So number 2 is going to be UV exposure. So of course, if this is done right, with all this clear that it has on the coating itself, UV exposure is not going to be very much damaging to this at all. Now, over the time, 5 to 10 years, maybe even 20 years, yes, if this sat outside all day, every day, there's almost no clear coat out there that's going to protect it from the UV protection for that long. But if this is properly taken care of, maybe garage kept, something like that, you can easily see that time in a hydrographic part or even a painted part. So if it has been properly clear coated and they've used a good quality clear, you should have no problem in seeing years of use, especially in the outdoors or even outside as well. So next up is going to be our glass cleaner. So we've got just a generic glass cleaner that we bought from the dollar store, and of course we're gonna take this, spray it like crazy. We'll take a rag and wipe it down. Pretty much this is not going to have any effect on it whatsoever. Again, if you use a good quality clear all the way around, this should do nothing but pretty much clean it up and actually make it look really nice and shiny, which it actually looks really good now. It's definitely not going to hurt it as well. It's just going to be just like soap and water. You can wipe it down, clean it off, and it's going to be perfectly fine. And there's no defects, damage, or anything like that. Let's move on to something a little bit more corrosive, and maybe start in with like isopropyl alcohol, and then maybe even a solvent wax and grease remover, moving into acetone, lacquer thinner, and even like a paint reducer. All right, so we've got an isopropyl alcohol here. Now, this is just a generic isopropyl alcohol. Now, this is 100% isopropyl alcohol, so this is not a reduced version or anything like that. So we've got that on the rag, and then we will, of course, rub this pretty well all the way around, and we should see little to no damage whatsoever. The isopropyl alcohol should be just like another cleaner. It should actually clean the surface instead of actually damaging any of the surface. Unless you just absolutely rub this very, very hard and you keep on rubbing it, there should be no damage to isopropyl alcohol to a part that's been properly sprayed with the hydrographics and clear coat. Okay, so next up is going to be our solvent-based wax and grease remover. So this is what we use a lot whenever we are wanting to clean our parts or get them ready for prep work or anything like that. So again, we'll take this and we will rub this just like that, really good all the way around. And you can see I'm being pretty vigorous with my rubbing all the way around here. And again, just like the isopropyl alcohol, we should have pretty much no damage to that right there. And so once that dries and evaporates back up, just like that, now we can of course see we still have a very clean, glossy part all the way around. Everything looks really good. There's no damage to it whatsoever. So again, this could be something like bug and tar remover or anything like that. This is not going to damage it if you have a good quality clear over the hydrographics. Next up, it's going to be the slow reducer, or in this case, paint reducer. Now, slow, medium, fast, doesn't really matter on that. The main thing is it's a paint reducer. So again, we'll take our rag here and we will pour some out on it, just like that. And again, we'll take this and we will rub it pretty good all the way around, just to make sure that we get everything covered and coated. And as you can tell, there is, again, no damage on this right here. And so again, if we have that clear coat over the top of it, there should be little to no damage if it's done properly. So still got a nice, clean, glossy look to it, so it hasn't taken off any of the finish. So with the paint reducer like this right here, you're going to be perfectly fine with the hydrographics itself. So let's move on to something a little bit more abrasive. We're going to probably go with something like an acetone. Now, acetone is going to be a little bit more abrasive than like a paint reducer or isopropyl alcohol or anything like that. We'll take this, get that on there, and again, we'll take this and wipe it down really good. And so as you can tell, if you have a clear coated part and it has a very good clear on it, or even just a generic clear, it's still going to hold up really well, even on the acetone. Now, if I was to take and I was to soak that in acetone, it would probably pull everything off. But again, we're not soaking it in acetone. We're taking the acetone that we have and rubbing over the top of that. And of course, the clear coat is doing a fantastic job on protecting that surface the way that it was meant to be. So acetone, pretty much no change to it at all. So now, of course, we'll grab the lacquer thinner and we will try this again. So we'll get to a new part of the rag here and we'll go with the lacquer thinner. Now again, this is something that everybody is very familiar with. The lacquer thinner has been around for years and years. And so we'll go ahead and rub that just like that. And again, I'm being pretty hard on this, as you can tell. And again, just like all of the other coatings itself, you can tell that there is pretty much no damage to that whatsoever. Now, lacquer thinner is definitely a little bit more aggressive than a lot of the other coatings that we've used here, but still, even just wiping off some of the excess and cleaning this up a little bit, you can definitely tell we've still got a very good gloss over the whole thing. We're starting to get some scratches, but inevitably I am scratching the mess out of it with these cloths. So that's kind of a little bit given on that. But overall, if you have a quality part with a good clear coat over the top of it, these chemicals should be no problem in resisting all of that. Okay, so of course you've seen what chemicals can do. Now let's see what all abrasions we can do as well. So of course the first thing is going to be is if you can run some keys over. So we have some keys here, and now again, I am not pressing very hard, but overall it is starting to make a little bit of a mark right on there, but again, I'm not pressing very hard. Now again, if I press very hard on this, you can take and get it to cut that all the way through. So of course a key can definitely damage it, but again, having a good clear coat over the top of that and having a good coating overall really helps in keeping that completely contained to just where the key hit it at. And so let's go to a knife. Now, of course, a knife is definitely going to cut it. There's no way around that. So if we were to take this right here and just lightly just go across this right here, you can see that we have literally almost no damage to it except for just a few little bitty tiny scuffs. We're not even getting past the clear. But if we take this and we put more pressure on it, then of course we will start to gouge into that part right there, and then of course we make those gouges. Now again, I am pressing pretty hard, so a knife is definitely going to cut into the hydrographics if that is presented. So of course the next test is going to be rocks, and so of course this would simulate like a rock chip or something like that. Now again, what we've got here is we've still got the same part right here, and then of course we've got tons of rocks right here. So let's just grab a whole bunch of these rocks right here, and let's just see what happens. Okay. Now, apart from it being dirty now, we have pretty much almost nothing happen to it. We might have one little indention right there, but overall, not bad at all. Now, let's take, and if we get a bigger rock like this right here, and then we hit it, now it hit somewhere right around in here. We might have one little indention right there, but again, this goes back to having a good quality coating and a good quality clear coat to help resist a lot of that abrasion and impact resistance from rocks like this right here. So of course, rock chips, as you can tell, they did damage it a little bit, but let's take it up one more notch. And so now that we have all of these, we have a couple of different spots from the knife, from the key, from the rock chip, and everything like that. But let's take it up a notch, and there we go. Let's first take it and let's take just a small flame like this right here. Now again, this is of course a lot less of a flame, but let's just run it over just very quickly and see what happens. And so as you can tell, the smaller flame like that, there's pretty much no change to the coating itself, and nothing is actually damaged on it because we're going, of course, a lot faster over the top of it. So the flame is still not damaging pretty much any of the coating itself that we've got. Now, what happens if we crank it up a notch? So let's crank it up a notch. So if we take and we hold that like that, we can easily see that it will, of course, definitely start to blister it because it's getting way overheated. It's past its limit of what it can hold. Most of the time, most coatings, whenever you're using these with the clear coat, the primer, and the paints that are used in the hydrographics, you're going to be somewhere around 250 to 300 degrees. As you can definitely tell, this is way over 250 to 300 degrees, and now we have a deformation of the actual part itself because it is plastic, as well as the coating itself has started to wrinkle. And so again, we can take that, and if we hold that on there, you can see that. And then if we just keep going more and more, of course at this point it is already so hot that it has completely deformed that, and it is even soft as well to where we can just move that in and out. And so, of course, high heat applications, this is not what you need for high heat applications, turbochargers, things like that. Now, I will say, intake manifolds as well as engine covers and things like that, they hold up still very well if it's done properly with the correct paints, primers, and clears over the actual surface of the part. They hold up really well for that. So but if you are using this thing for high heat, like as you can tell with this, that's probably not going to be the best, and you need to find a different coating. So now we're gonna, of course, do the ultimate test and what happens if you run it over with a truck. So let's find out. So as you can definitely tell, it actually held up a lot better than what I was even expecting. The coating is still on here. The coating is still held on pretty well. Of course, it's completely damaged, but it's still held up. So surprisingly, you're probably not going to like what it looks like, but the coating overall actually held up better than what we were expecting. So if you do it right, and you know, it's got a good quality paint, primer, clear on it, you can expect it to hold up about like this. So hopefully this has really helped you guys out. Of course, if you have any questions or comments, definitely leave them below. We'd love to hear from you on anything hydrographics related, as well as let me know your thoughts on this, durability wise. Should we have done something different? Always love to hear you guys and what you think on that. Also, if you haven't already, definitely hit the subscribe button. We'd love to have you subscribe to our weekly tips and tricks. I'm Bryan from Liquid Concepts, and this is how we customize your world. We'll see you guys next time.